Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Inem Messet, but you can just call me Inem because that's a lot easier to pronounce. And I'm very excited to be here with this wonderful panel. Before I start, let me let you know that I have two of my orgas here. Apologies to you, not that there's anything, but these are my orgas. When I was first starting out, I am struggling in the legal tech space. I reached out to Mr. Rotimi, and I didn't know him at the time. I think there was somebody that connected us together, and I was living in Port Harcourt, and I said, there's this thing I'm doing. I don't really know much about it. I was even nervous that I'll get disbarred because at the time, who knew if you talk about lawyers to come out and use technology, they will not say you're advertising. Then you now go and face disciplinary committee. So I reached out to him and said, please, will you come to Port Harcourt and speak to people? And he came. He's been my boss since then. I really like to say I'm very excited to be on this panel with him. And also Mr. Lugasa of Law Pavilion. We are dragging him everywhere we are going. So these are my bosses. So yes, I'm excited to be on this panel. And we are talking about expanding access to justice with technology. When I was listening to the profiles, and this kindest lawyer, like, who are you thinking about in law school? Like, I'm going to come out and it's kindness that's going to be my middle name. That's fantastic. Well done. Well done. In your experience, mixing kindness and law, especially where the last panel has been talking about most of our problems has been the justice sector, the sector in which you are working in. This ceiling is broken. How do you think? So first of all, we know the problems, right? And now technology has come to disrupt other industries. And it's also disrupting the legal industry. But is it really giving access to justice? How easy is that? And if yes, what does justice mean in your area of work?
All right. Thank you for having me. I think the first thing I have to say is if you're starting out to be kind, then money should not be the focus. I think. So for me, right, fundamentally, I grew up with a father who was a community man. So the training I had as a young girl was to identify the difference between success and prosperity. So I was able to decipher the difference at a very early stage that, yeah, I want to prosper. Everybody wants to have good things of life. But at the same time, I want to really make impact in my community. So that was the driving force for me. I'd seen my father done it. He's not a lawyer, but he was a community man. And I know that the larger population of Nigeria are quite poor. And that's the fact. So when we talk justice, it looks so big, and everybody think it's only the rich, that can afford it, that needs it. But the truth is, the people who truly need justice, like Sam said in the earlier conversation, the people who truly need justice are very poor, are in underserved communities, might not even have access to a phone. All right, that can give all of this solution we've been talking about, that they might not be able to access it. So I came from that point of view, and then that led me to starting a nonprofit organization. So I started off having a law firm, but running a law firm, I still do, but it's not really, for me, was not answering those questions that most of the time comes to my table. And these are people who are yearning for answers, but when you charge them, they truly cannot pay it. Do you want to do the job? Yes, you would, because you are quite passionate about it, but is it feeding you? Absolutely no. So I had to be innovative about it and see how I can do the same thing, because I have the skill as a lawyer to do the same thing, like to serve this different class of people. And I think that was how I started out. But of course, because you cannot advertise law firm, and an NGO kind of advertises you, because you're doing the job, you're telling the story, and that's where storytelling comes in, and the use of technology as well. So I use technology to tell the story, use social media to tell the story, and in no time, people are getting to see what you're doing. And I believe that technology, will help So for us, we started off physically. We would go to prison, we would take cases of people, we would represent them. But we introduced a technology called Lawyers Now. It's a digital application, and it is absolutely free, but it is targeted at indigent people. So, but again, are they truly using it? Yes, but not everybody can, because these people don't have internet-enabled phone. Those who has internet-enabled phone don't have data, and you need to buy data to access it. So we introduced a feature where I can report on behalf of someone, So even if the beneficiary doesn't have the mobile phone or the data, someone else in the community can help. But again, we're also thinking of USSD code, because this is how, if I have a touchlight phone, I can still access a lawyer. So we just continue to evolve, understanding the market, understanding the system and the need of these beneficiaries, and then continue to innovate and provide solution. But again, where is the money coming from? The money is not being paid by the beneficiary. So it is now left for us as founders to think of those who are capable of buying the solution. So we know people who wants to do good for people who wants to help people solve solution. We have international organizations who wants to help underserved people. So we can approach some of these people to fund the services we're providing. And that way, we're still making money and at the same time creating impact.
Thank you very much. Have you ever engaged using crowdfunding?
Absolutely.
Crowdfunding has been, and that was based on your storytelling.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to bring that out because you see what she said. I cannot, as a law firm, advertise. I can't say we are good at this. We can't, even though right now I've seen a lot of things on Instagram that are changing, right? People actually do sponsored posts that say, if you're looking for so kind of person in this area of law, find me. So I'm not sure what the RPC has to say about that particular one. But her strategy is that, look, alongside your law firm, create a body that can sneeze, that can talk about you. The NGO is not going to go before the disciplinary committee and say, why are you advertising? No, they're talking about the problem, and they're referring the people to this lawyer. So you see, there are other ways to go around certain things. And the reason why I asked you about crowdfunding is because crowdfunding really is about Nigeria. I saw the one on Instagram recently that the man he gave birth to 2 children. And his wife now gave birth to quadruplets. And he posted on his WhatsApp status, WhatsApp technology, right? And he was complaining, 150 diapers in a day. His friend takes a snapshot of his WhatsApp status and goes where? On Twitter. As at last time that I checked it, I think they had donated about 14. 20, how much? 19 million from WhatsApp status. So we think about justice, and that's really what I wanted us to think about it in relatable terms. What is justice to you? Even as a lawyer here, you need justice. As an individual, you need justice. But there are some things that are like barriers already in your head that it can't happen in this country, I beg. Who would have thought that somebody gave birth to quadruplets? Nigerians that are complaining about this economy will contribute 19 million. Who would have thought about that? Now, is that justice, or is that access to justice in a particular way? Is that help? That if you position yourself as a lawyer, people that get raped or people that get even harassed in universities, in other various communities, can anonymously reach you and say, oh, I don't want to complain. I don't want my face to be out there, but I can use your platform, right? And that brings me to a question that I've always had for a long time. While we are here, sitting down here, doing what we do best, and I want to say well done to Kelechi. Kelechi has done amazing. We need to really say, well done, Kelechi. Thank you for all the work you do behind the scene and in front of the scene. Thank you for pushing this agenda, because it's obvious that people are passionate about it, but there's no money. It doesn't go round the system. Now, the challenge of our industry is in the justice system. So I would like to ask, what do you think has been done, let's say since COVID? Because I know that when COVID happened, all our judges and everybody, the justice system started thinking in terms of going digital. But Mr. Rotimi, and that question, I'm going to bring it to you. What has been done so far that is changing the justice system away from the traditional way that we were taught in law school? And what do you think we can do ourselves now, or would advise those in the justice system now to do as a reform with the use of technology?
Thank you very much, Inem, and thank you for all of the props. Let me join you to say thank you to Kelechi as well, so that I still have this seat here. But beyond that, it's really thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thank you to the entire team. And thank you to the wonderful audience as well for being patient. Well, for those who know me, I don't answer questions directly. I would always give context, but I will do it carefully. Your question is very direct, and I'll come to it. But in answering that question, let me set a particular parameter. And I'm picking it up from where Mr. Samuel Oji, took it from, where he very finely drew that line, and explained legal technology in terms of using technology tools pretty much to drive efficiencies, to drive innovation, and justice tech in terms of everything my dear sister just spoke to about here. Now, I always bring the third track, and Inem, I will answer the question on this platform. The third track is actually where I play. All right. So, Mr. Olugasa, Nigeria's champion in legal technology. All right. And the justice tech folks, plenty folks doing stuff. Now, I take that third track, which is all of this technology, what does it mean for society? As a lawyer now, all this technology, and the keynote speaker raised it in his presentation in terms of what does it mean for society? Understanding that. And in answer to your question, what's justice to you? All right. Beyond enforcing rights, beyond writing contracts, lawyers fundamentally, we actually bring sanity to society. Whether it's the physical world we live in or the digital world. So what that means is, with all of these developments, there have been disruptions in society, including digital society. Who are those folks who would bring sanity to that space? All right. So let's say that that's where I play. And that's questions around policy, questions around governance, questions around strategy, right? And I said all that particularly for our younger colleagues in here, so that you can broaden your mind to begin to think beyond the tools, right? And beyond the good in terms of justice, applying the tools to society, and begin to see yourself as one of those folks who will set the rules in this new world that we are going into. So what has changed? Many things, all right. I think clearly the first change was cultural. Knowing that our profession, the legal profession, is naturally conservative, which is the opposite of technologists who are innovative, who push the boundaries, who wants to do something new. We are guided by precedents. If it's never been done or said before, don't try and say it. All right. Otherwise, there's no basis for what you're saying. So we are actually diametrically opposite with innovators. What COVID did was it shifted that mindset. That, guys, the world that we are living in today, we cannot survive it with that cultural notion of it's been done this way and so shall it be ever and ever. So that was the first thing that shifted. So everything else that happened was on the back of that mindset shift. Is it the virtual courtrooms? Is it the change in the Evidence Act, which pretty much kind of broadened the definition of digital evidence and all of that, right? Is it all of the innovations around e-discovery, around case management, around office management that technology has driven? All of those things happen because there's been a shift in thinking. Plus, the digital natives, those people who grew up with technology, are now coming into the workforce. And their expectations are different. Everything we spoke about, user experience on the last panel and all, it's really about creating an experience for people, right? Who are not like our fathers or even my own generation, right? So many things have changed. I hope in the course of the conversation, we will now come into the nitty gritties. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Rotimi. It's very interesting for us to be thinking about it like from that perspective. I wish we had a judge on this panel. I wish we could be able to point fingers and say, "Sir, Your Honor, Your Lordship, can you please tell us what exactly the judiciary has done to democratize access to justice?" But without that benefit of that perspective, what else, the other angle we can come at it from would be from terms of access to information. And that's where you come in, Mr. Olugasa. I would just ask you a very pedestrian question. Is tech a tool, a perfect, emphasis on the word perfect? Is tech a perfect tool for access to justice?
Yes.
Yes.
It is a perfect tool. But is it a perfect solution? No. And maybe I will go on a little journey. Each time I have opportunities to talk on this topic, I try to deliberately calm myself down, not to be too passionate. Because it's something that has bothered me for years, and it still keeps bothering me. And I will give us a few, if time allows, a little perspective to this. But first, let me lend my support. Kelechi, thank you very much. It may seem as if we're just a couple of people gathered in here, but I strongly believe that the couple of people gathered in here, to a good extent, might end up holding the future of Nigeria. And that's why I want to say this. So please, how many of us here are not lawyers? Please clap for yourselves. Because I'm not a lawyer as well. But I love this community because it's a community of lawyers and non-lawyers. And that's where innovation, that's where disruption can happen. Now, someone said, and I always try to reiterate it, that poverty is not lack of resources, but it's absence of justice. Look at every country in the world that's developed. One thing works. It's not their government that works. It's their justice system that works. And what that tells us is that if we want to solve the problem of Nigeria, then we need to have a critical look at the justice sector. Now, Mr. Guyemi has spoken about this, and Mr. Sam Oji, right? Over the last panel, they've spoken about this, in the sense that the legal industry is a little bit much more peculiar than every other industry. Now, for a doctor, the issue starts with the patient and ends with the doctor, yes or no? Yes. But for a victim of justice, the issue possibly starts with the victim, gets to the lawyer. If it has to go to the court, then it gets to the court. It means it's not something that one single person can just solve. You can have the most brilliant lawyers in the country, and they are very good at solving legal problems. But if the justice system, if they get to the last mile and it's still not as fast or as efficient as it is, then there's a problem. What am I trying to say? that the systemic failure in Nigeria is, it's a systemic failure. The failure of Nigeria is not a single point of failure. It's a systemic thing. So even if you have the best government, it still can't solve the problem. Because, let me not go into different, but the issue is, how then do we, as justice sector innovators, begin to think outside the box, as Mr. Oguyemi has rightly said, and see how do we really solve this problem, because nobody will come and solve it for us. And I will give you an example. A colleague was speaking just earlier this week, and was giving an example of what happened in his house. To his brother. His brother lives in UK. He built a house in Nigeria, and then the tenant refused to pay rent for some months, I think even for years. He took the guy to court. And then 1 year after, they are still on the matter. Meanwhile, the guy still stopped paying. He wasn't paying anything. And just like, look, we'll keep on meeting in court. And they kept adjourning. In fact, the last time, I think the lawyer to the client said he forgot something, or maybe his wife just gave birth and he couldn't come, and they adjourned it for another 6 months. You know what this guy did in UK? Okay, he's tried his best. At least he tried to be civil. Then the next thing he did, he then called police. No, not police, just arranged. They cut the guy's light. They did no cut the water, cut so many things. And then immediately after that, the wife of the man began to call him. In fact, the man lied in court that his wife was ill. That was why he couldn't pay rent. Then the wife called the man and said, look, I'm not ill, this one and that one. And then this is the part of it that became a little bit more interesting to me. The guy said, well, he has used the court to delay. That he too will use the same court to delay the resolution. That the worst thing is they will take him to court. And then another 1 year, they are fighting on. And it just goes on and on. What does this tell us? It means that when the justice is not working, everybody resorts to self-help. So how do we solve this problem? I don't have the answer. But can we begin to use technology as a catalyst to solving this systemic problem? Technology can help us. Things that would actually happen in someone's backyard that nobody knows about. Someone can, just as what you have explained, technology will help heighten it. And it gives the awareness, raises the publicity, and makes everybody see it as a focus. And I'll just give one example of what can be done. Assuming we have a justice clock index, wherein what we have per state is what is the average age of cases in each state in Nigeria. And then it's publicized using tech, such that it now becomes easier for us to measure chief judges against chief judges. Yep. In your state, not even chief judges, a number of times, the chief judges themselves are not even, they're also constrained. Yeah. There becomes a measurement for government. In your state, it takes 10 years. In another state, it takes 2 years. Then everybody's attention begins to go into that look, you are not an efficient governor if the justice system in your state is this low. Then it becomes easier for the CJs to go to the assembly and ask for more funds to either get more judges or to get more resources to solve their problem. But we must begin to think outside the box. I have a security guard last month. He's from Kaduna State. What happened to him? Just all of a sudden, they called him from home. Sorry, I've just remembered this. Called him from home, and there was this banditry. They attacked their village. They killed his dad. They killed his stepmom. They killed his brother, and he's about the only one left. He had to run back and forth, relocate from Lagos, someone that was trying to fend for himself, and then rush back to the village and just to stay with his mom because his stepmom had died. And in my head, I tried to read all through the papers. There was no mention, meaning that many people are suffering injustice in Nigeria. The little we see is just a tiny drop in the ocean. It's a systemic failure. Except we solve it using technology as a catalyst, we will not grow in Nigeria. But I strongly believe in Nigeria, and that's why I'm in this business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olugasa. So just to highlight, he mentioned it from two-pronged response, two-pronged solution. One is dealing with the visibility of the injustices in accessing from regular individuals, accessing justice, and also the process of justice going its round, start to finish, right? Now that goes down to legal education, whether it's the education of lawyers or the education of the populace about the state of the law. And I will just quickly, before I also want to ask you a question, but I will just talk about the incidents that we've been seeing on social media. 2 incidents. One is really circling paternity fraud. The most popular one right now that has been going on has been the question of Mohbad's child's paternity, right? But if you look at it, if you go online, you see a lot of people complaining, oh, I found out my wife said after 15 years that the 3 children we had was not mine. This other one was not mine. This one's not mine. So that is coming to the forefront now. Paternity fraud. Why? Because we are on social media, we're on Instagram, but many fathers have died having spent their life taking care of children that did not belong to them. Do they deserve justice? Yes. How can we use education of the populace in the legal sphere as well as education of lawyers to bring attention using technology to these kind of... So I'm not going to ask you that, Mr. Kwayemi, please. Let me pass the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And I also want to say thank you to Kelechi and her team for putting this together. You brought us together to learn and to bring solutions that can help drive the justice process. The first thing I would like to say is, it's a question. Do we all believe that access to justice is fundamental? Yes. Do we all agree? Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay. So if we agree, it means that whatever it takes to ensure that there is access to justice, we must do it, even if it means using technology. We must explore everything. Now, to the question about paternity fraud, it's beautiful that it's technology that really made us to come into this limelight of paternity fraud. I mean, without the technology, I don't know what would have, what would be. So we see that it's technology that has aided people coming to know who's my father, who is not my father. And technology also has helped to know that people had certain issues, they didn't know, but technology made them to know. And that's where we even get to paternity fraud. You know, before it's perceived that women are the only ones that have fertility issues. But technology has shown that men too do have fertility issues. And that's why we're talking about paternity fraud today. So yes, we recently wrote a paper on the position of the law on paternity fraud in Nigeria, you know. And we see that the laws that enforce these rights, they are scarce. It's not really, we don't have a robust legal framework to really deal with this problem. Because I tell you that paternity fraud is huge. You know, misattributed, you know, paternity is huge. And many cases like that we see is huge. But we still do not have a robust legal framework to actually help people to get justice. Or what do you think should be the sentence for someone who has wrongly attributed paternity to someone else? Should it be, what do we think?
An equivalent number of years that the man has been ignorant. You go to jail. If he took care of your children for 11 years, you go to jail for 11 years with hard labor.
Yes, because we have to be fair.
But there's a caveat to that. In addition to paternity, for technology that's used to determine that the father is not the father should also be tested on the mother to be sure that it's not just paternity fraud, but hospital fraud, which is another area of technology for justice.
Yes.
I think that when we're talking about legal education, we should be talking about what are the things that we deserve to have as fundamental human rights that we don't even know that are our rights, that are enshrined in the Constitution as an omnibus clause, so to speak. For example, access to the correct medical information. Yes. You go for a surgery, a surgeon maybe drank alcohol before he came in. Nobody's going to put it in the reports that the person who did your surgery was a little bit in the margin, had a little bit of alcohol in his bloodstream. Why? The potential defendant is the only person who has access to all the necessary information. But there are laws there that enshrine it. But are we as lawyers, educated about our fundamental human rights, and what you're a law clinician, how do you use legal education to help us get from A to B?
Okay, so legal education can be formal or informal. Yes. Now, if you want to talk about the informal ones, people are already doing that. Lawyers are already writing. They're already going on advocacy, to teach people what they should know about the law, your human rights, this and that. And that's what the law clinic is all about too. At Christian University Law Clinic, although we are still at our infancy, we are starting up. The university, the college is quite young. We're just going to our third year.
Okay.
So part of the things that we do is to ensure that even within the university community itself, we let people know what their right is. This is it. We have had to, sit on one or two cases within the university community, people that had issues, just free legal access, for their problems, not having to miss courts to get justice.
Okay.
So, like I said, it can be formal or informal. How formal, institutionalized, we are teaching our students, we are teaching them even how to teach other people,
Yeah.
not just themselves. What they have to pass how we teach them. They also must become a voice, must become a voice amongst their mates when they go out, and that's why it's good that we expose. I just really want to talk about the clinical educational aspect. A lot of people have asked, and even me, I think about it, that we are not doing so well in legal education as regards to clinical education. And this is why I say so. We spent 5 years in university and just 1 year in law school. And even that 1 year, a large chunk of it is still in the classroom.
Yeah.
So we only get to go on externship to courts and chambers. And to be very frank, we don't really touch real life issues. Frankly, we don't really touch real life issues. So how do we? May I propose, why don't we do it like the medical system, the medical education, where they have their preclinicals and they go to the teaching hospitals for their clinical education. And it's not just 1 year. They have about 2-3 years to do that. They sit with consultants, they go into the ward, they see people, they see real life cases. Which they can apply what they have been teaching them in school. They can apply, but that's not really, we don't really have that in the legal space. So I think we need to do more about that. We need to do more about it and really ensure that what we are teaching people is what they are really seeing.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. So we're almost out of time, but I really wanted to just have a little bit of time for Q&A. But we cannot talk about access to justice through technology without suggesting the kind of ideas you want to see in justice tech. Mr. Sam had separated what he feels is legal tech and justice tech, right? We've talked about the challenges we have going up to justice. But what about in the temple of justice? What are the kinds of technology do we suggest that if we had somebody here in the room today that was going to design an application, a mobile web application to solve the problem from the top? Justice reform in technology. And I would piggyback off what she said and then give everybody an opportunity to speak. She talked about clinicals, access to information, access to direct mentorship. Can we create a product that would give people who want to work in the justice system or lawyers who want to work she also wants to compete with her for the kind award, right? But they want to be able to see firsthand what's going on in the justice system. Can we have a tech product that would give either real or virtual access to what's happening in behind the scene? Because right now, we are behind closed doors. Everything is behind a veil. What's your idea? First of all, do you think it's a good idea to open it up for lawyers to view, to learn, to be mentored? Or what other justice tech do you suggest that we start thinking about as innovators? So starting from you and then all the way back.
All right, thank you so much. For me, even as a lecturer, let me start from the classroom. Even as a lecturer, I see a lot of gaps, even in the way that we teach students and even prepare them for the world out there. There are a lot of opportunities. I mean, there are a lot of products, even within the school communities, for legal education. There are so many. Okay, for instance, in most universities, for instance, How many of us can really boast that we have our classrooms being automated enough? You don't have automated classrooms, even for lawyers. They are not automated. We still have to go to the library, pick the books, do all that. Well, thanks to Law Pavilion that has made things easy for even young lawyers today. But that is there. So we still need we need solutions along those lines. Even in some of our schools today, University of Ibadan, I went to University of Ibadan. The only time we even get to use PowerPoint presentation is when we have a presentation that we're going to be scored on. That's the only time that we get to use those things. And these are just basic things. They're not even going so deep, So along these lines, we still need solutions that can help. We need people to develop apps and products that can help ensure that even in our learning in school, we have the best.
Yeah. Thank you.
Forward. Thank you.
Lemi.
Okay. So I'll tailor this down to the space that I operate, right? And I think I have a couple to suggest. And the first one would be in the area of today, right? If anybody is detained at the police or in the prison, and the court had given a bail and say one person should be a surety for the defendant, you would need a surety. Now, in some states, like in Ogun State, there's what they call bondsmen. Now, bondsmen are people who stand in as surety for people for a fee, all right? In Lagos State, if you present a man as a surety to a judge, the judge would interview the person and say, you are not connected to this defendant at all, so you cannot stand. All right? So it is a very tedious process to perfect bail conditions in Lagos State. So for me, I'll be suggesting that if you can have like a product wherein, first of all, have a policy around accepting that standing in for as shortish does not necessarily mean I have to be your family. I am capable. I am a responsible member of the Nigerian society. I should be able to shorty you, okay? So if we have that kind of policy, then we can build a product around people now accessing shorties on that product. That way, we are decongesting the prison, because I tell you that a number of people who are currently detained in prison have been granted bail, but they cannot perfect it. And another thing we are going to be doing with that product is we're also going to be reducing the delay that we have in justice delivery. So, because your trial would go on speedily. We are not now waiting for somebody to stand in for you and all of that. Then another thing I'll also suggest would be around the time of delivery of justice. So currently, we know, we've represented someone in our organization who was in prison for 13 years, awaiting trial. Now, I was in a forum just some days ago on Tuesday, and then they said there's difference between awaiting trial and trial ongoing. Please, what's the trial ongoing for 13 years? And at the end of the day, the court is still striking out that case, not because it has gotten to a logical conclusion. It's still because probably the prosecution was not able to provide any form of witness and all of that. So I'm thinking that if we have a product designed to, see the pace at which, first of all, identify those things responsible for delay in justice delivery. One of which is adjournment. One of which is, you get to court is not sitting. One of which is you dress up in the morning to go to court, and you get to court, the prosecution has no witness to produce. So I'm thinking that if we have a product where I log in, I know that today justice, whatever, is not sitting, I can go and face other things. Or we are also going to, because this is going to affect all parties, it's affecting the victim who is probably in prison. In fact, it's not only just criminal justice, even in civil space. Civil space, you have maybe your boss tied down somewhere because there's a dispute on it and money is going. Your houses is, let's spend this. All of those kind of situations. So so justice is like the very bedrock for any thriving society. So I think that if we have a product around the pace at which justice is delivered, where lawyers, litigants can log in and see what is going to happen in my case. Or is my case really going to go on? Is this just judge going to sit? That way, it's going to help us a lot more. We are going to trust the institution a lot more, because the issue of trust is very fundamental. I tell you, I know rich people in this country who they have felt one disadvantage or the other, or injustice or the other, but they are not willing to go to court. They will not. Because I'll be begging him to be paying me back small, rather than going to court and then stuff there. So that
Thank you very much. I think those ideas are fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Rotimi, please.
So very quickly, and this is just taking it from where the last speaker stopped. Online dispute resolution is a thing. And I think we have mounted it for many years, but I want to break it down to relatable problems, right? So I erroneously transferred funds to XYZ's account. And maybe it's not 2 million, maybe it's not 20 million, maybe it is 20,000, right? And the procedure to get that refund, the mental stress alone, it goes beyond the amount you are thinking about. Then, assuming you engage the legal system, because the bank will tell you you need a court order for a reversal to happen. Now, I use that example to say, in the UK, in Canada, there are small claims courts, but they are all online based. For real, what happens is, I'm going to get that court order. It's only that it's going to happen almost automatically. I will upload my claim. I write it myself. I erroneously transferred to X account. I'm making a claim to get it back. And there might be a template. I upload it on the system. A judge, right, who could be a real judge or an AI, it depends, right, would sit on it, review the evidence, and give an order, right? This happens within like 5-10 minutes, for real. And I get it in my email, and I forward the email to the bank to say, here's the court order, and the bank reverses my money.
Fantastic. Does this exist?
Now, I said it like science fiction. A whole lot of things will need to happen under current. For instance, there has to be online procedure rules. So the same way you have civil procedure rules, criminal procedure rules, it has to be written. It's been written in the UK. All right. There has to be the technology. Right? And at the heart of this technology is AI. And I can break it down, every last thing I said. So I'm not talking pie in the sky. There's technology to make everything I said now happen. Authentication, a digital identity. These are all the components that will go in to make this happen. So I think that much of our conversations in the justice or legal tech ecosystem has been in silos. If we narrow down on 2 problems, and we have people in the room like this and say, can we solve this? Who are the players, who are the stakeholders that need to engage to make this happen? It's going to include the judiciary, right? It's going to include the lawyers, the technologists, right? It's going to include all of us talking together. But we say in 2 years, that picture I painted, we want it to happen in Nigeria. It will happen. That's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Ologasa, please, your final words.
Let me speak on the perspective of a non-lawyer. It was Peter Drucker that said, what you cannot manage what you don't measure. What I think we should look at having technology to do is to make justice a mainstream. Naturally, politicians will not focus on anything that does not give them a political point. And it's not only in Nigeria alone, almost all across the globe. Politicians will always look at that. But how can we make justice a major political point? And that's where I think innovators, justice sector, players will come into play. Let me give one or two examples. One would be, how many of us have heard that there are issues about police just going to harass people and all this one? There are so many of them, right? How many of them have happened in the last 1 year? Tons, quite a lot, right? How many? Nobody knows. Under the current IGP, how many has happened? Under the last IGP regime, how many happened? Nobody knows. We just complain. Let me give another instance. How many of you have gone where your flight was scheduled for 1 p.m. and then you ended up leaving at 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
Or it's even cancelled? It happens a lot, right? Which airline has been the most? But it's right, we can always only guess. We do not have the actual data that we can brandish on everybody, and every CEO of every airline industry becomes a KPI for them. How many communities are victims of injustice and their representatives are in the House of Rep and the Senate just making laws that are not relevant to the communities? Do the communities have a dashboard where it shows what are the major legal or justice issues in this community? And that's what we judge or you will evaluate what they call them, the representative on, or the attorneys general of states. What are the major the states where they have injustices? When we have technologies that we measure these, I think it just takes issue of access to justice to become a national discourse. We need to use technology to change narrative. On the other hand, too, is the issue of many times when you have cases in court, especially criminal cases, is because of evidence, right? And witnesses. But there can be anonymous witnesses, there can be crowdsourcing. We are doing some things in this space. But let me use the case of this lady, Bamiche, on BRT. You know, when she first came out, when I think mom was going on, and they finally said, okay, she entered, was last thing she entered, the BRT, this and that. You know, when they apprehended the driver, you know what the driver first said? He said he was also a victim, that it was some people that entered the bus, and they, at gunpoint, he had to, until another person came up and said, no, this same driver had attempted, and that was when the story changed. It's because in Nigeria, I'm trying to look for the right word. When it comes to, you know, this sickness that you forget.
Amnesia.
We have information amnesia. Or is it amnesia of information? If we can galvanize those information and brandish it, trust me, the banks that remove money anyhow, if we have they have removed my money, I post it, and the data is being just curated like that, and then you can see that, look, this bank is the one that plays. In fact, why do banks respond now? If there's anything on Twitter and then just place it there, that's when they will respond. That's the same thing. Can we make solutions that will bring justice to the fore of the national discourse? I think that will help us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this session. You know why? Apart from the intellectual stimulation, it gave us a lot of opportunities for the entrepreneurs in the room to go and build. I know that there are tech enthusiasts here. So you build your own platform that would make sure that access from people. Look, how did Donald Trump win the first election? He bypassed, he went straight to the people. Any policy he was saying, we are thinking about doing this, but the House of Commons is not responding. So direct access. Once again, please give a round of applause to this wonderful panel. It's been exciting to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Kelechi. And it's been my pleasure for this to have happened today. Thank you so much.
How do we know tech ideas, legal tech ideas that are worth, placing the bet over? Take, for instance, what is happening with Duolingo and then the OpenAI translator right now. So there's some sort of ideas that come into the market and they act like grim reapers, and then it just starts, threatening everybody. They swallow up other, ideas. So I wanted to ask the panelists, how do they think that through? What process do they subject their ideas through before they know that, okay, this stuff is worth it, then let's pursue it? Do you get? Yep.
So I think I'll ask Mr. Lugasa to respond to that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that beautiful question. And this is what I would say for a number of us that are startups. The systems we see or the solutions we see that become mainstream, that's the one everybody celebrates and applauds. But for every idea that worked, most likely there are 100 ideas from the same company that did not work. So if you tried, for us, we have tried several and they did not work. And we've tried some that seem to have worked. So please, if I get the question correctly, you still, when you get your idea, you still need to ask people around. You do your, have a product manager, they will help you do that. You test it, and also you come up with your MVP and you see how it goes. But many a times, even when your test says it will work and you get to the market, it may not work. But you should have this natural resilience in you. In fact, I always like to use my dad's word. He called it tenacity of purpose. Something may end up working, but for the first 3, 4, 5 years, it may not work, just like the Chinese bamboo. That until you need to keep watering it every day for 5 years before it begins to grow. But the moment it grows, because the moment it sprouts, I think for every week, it grows by another maybe 20 inches or something. In the space of 6 months, it grows 33,000 inches. I can't remember, about 30 meters in short. So at times, some ideas need to be nurtured. Some will quickly come to limelight and it will quickly board. But there are some that you will need to be patient and patiently water it until it becomes mainstream. And there are some that, in spite of all the efforts, it still will not. Don't worry, it's not a failure. As I think it was the last speaker, mother-in-law, that said you failed forward. Those are some of the things. Out of that failing forward, you may get another very fantastic idea on even getting it much better. So please, as an entrepreneur, it's one of the things. It's the risk. But if you don't take the risk, then you will likely not get the...
Thank you very much. Please, I would just like, okay, Mr. Rotimi wants to respond. I would like to just contribute to something. For the ideas in this room, which we are talking about in terms of legal tech, please think about collaboration. Because one of the things that we have noticed is that we know we are talking about the problems now, but you don't know the operationality. You don't know what policies, like for example, you can create a good product and you're not allowed to advertise. And in your product is saying, I am the best. You've already started off on the wrong foot. So with the people who have the problem, sit in the room with them, go to court with them, go engage with them. If you don't collaborate and you're trying to solve a problem from the outside, it wouldn't work. You would hit this problem in the market. And while you're building, don't wait until you have an MVP. Start with a Google form. Go to market and say, if this, then what? People in the market, what is their experience? When I first built my product, the lawyers, I did a feasibility study, and the lawyers told me I got a minus. Imagine in feasibility study, and you get a minus. But guess what? I realized, I went back to the table. Lawyers were not my targets. It's the clients, the people like you. Those are my targets. So I said, if I have only 300 people on my platform, and I'm giving it out to the lawyers for free, but the clients are paying for the product, is that not a better income stream? I also decided that you people in Nigeria are stressing me. If I go abroad and decide to do it, $100 is not a problem, but you 100K is a problem. So what can be problematic here may not be problematic outside. Thank you.
You've heard resilience, you've heard collaboration. I just want to add one more word. It's called defensible. And I'll explain. When did the iPhone launch? 2007. All right. At the time the iPhone launched, certain people made some apps like Touchlight, right? And there were people who were buying and paying for that app until Apple did what? They upgraded and their device came with a Touchlight. So, and that's the example he gave, right? It cannibalized that business. However, certain other people, they went more fundamental, and that's thinking first principles. Google Maps existed, and then an Uber built on top of Google Maps. Uber exists today. That's what you call defensible, right? You have to think beyond the glitz, the hype. This is the next flashy thing, right? And look 10 years, 20 years ahead. What will stay the test of time? Thank you very much.